Blitzers, Nerf Clan, it's Ronan. Welcome back to the channel. We have for you new in the stores the T26E3 Eagle 7. New tank, 10,000 gold is the price for this guy. It does come with camo. How generous of Wargaming. And it does come, I think, with all your slots, so you don't have to spend a couple million credits to upgrade the tank. It is a good tank in tier 7, and if you look at some of the details, I'll run through these in a bit more detail in a moment. You know, the hull's got 101 millimeters of armor, the side 76, and the rear 50. We'll look at the armor a little bit closer. It's got a view range of 250, and DPM is 1853 without the rammer. And some, you know, I'll start getting into some of the details here. The pen is not good. 160 pen, 225 alpha. 202 is your APCR. You know, you're going to phase a tier 8 or 2 with this tank. You're not going to pen them with 202 almost anywhere in the front. So good luck with that. Okay, aim time 4.4. Shit dispersion at 0.355. It does have minus 10 gun depression. Its average speed 31. Power to weight 16.2. Top speed 40. Reverse 21 is fast. This tank will back up. Turn rate's fine for both the hull and the etc. And the terrain crossing is nothing special. So the question is, what do you do? Should you buy this tank? Well, I'll spoil it ahead of time a little bit. My answer to you is yes, you probably should buy this tank, but not yet. It is not worth 10,000 gold. Looking at the win rate for the tank, so because it just came out, the win rate for it is skewed. It shows 73%. My assumption will be that it will drop significantly, but we shall see. It released, I think, yesterday, so it's going to take some time for this to be accurate. In terms of the comparison, and this is when I think you can start seeing some of the weaknesses of the tank. I compared it to the T26E3, its premium brother, American brother in Tier 7, the T34-1, which is not so arguably the best medium in Tier 7 outside of the DRAC, which is, in my opinion, a light, the M26 Pershing, and the T20. The M26 Pershing obviously is a Tier 8. Some people think this is basically a Tier 8. It's not. I'll show you why it's not. And the T20 is its cousin. It's probably the closest relative to this tank. So looking at the DPM here, you can see it is way behind the T26E3. It's just not that kind of tank, but yet the pen is the same. For some reason, Blitzstars has the pen on the Pershing at 160. That's incorrect. The pen of the Pershing, the Tier 8, is 180. So obviously you have a big difference there. And the Pramo is 243 for the M26 Pershing. Again, comparing that to just the appalling 202. Again, even the T26E3 has better pen than it on its Pramo. But it does have similar DPM to the T20, slightly higher DPM than the T20 tank. Alpha, as we mentioned below, is the appalling 160, and notice the 234-1, you got 280 alpha, and so 175 pen and 235 pen in the Pramo. Not to mention you have some pretty good HE of 50 pen uncalibrated and 350 alpha. So again, the T34-1 has a massive advantage on this tank. Aim time is okay, 1.9. We'll take that. Not as good as T26E3, but better than the T20. So I think consistently it's better than the T20. Dispersion, again, worse than the T26E3, nothing special. And depression, all these tanks, obviously, except for the T34-1, have minus 10, plus 20, or plus 25. Movement-wise, again, a lot of green there. It is not a fast tank. It's slower than every other medium I'm comparing it to, except for the reverse where it's slightly faster. So it does have a good reverse. Effective power to weight, you can see it's much, much slower than T26E3, which is right there. It's almost half the power to weight. So T26E3 is not that fast. This tank's not going to move. It's going to be a slow tank. There's no simple way to look at it. And again, the win rates under this calculation are still high, but that is because it has not been used much. All right, so having a quick look at the tank, and since I already ran through it, I'm just going to look at the rankings here. And if you probably have to use the calibrated shells on this tank because the pen is so awful. There's just no way around it. The 290 view range is fine. You can see that the DPM is the second lowest on AP. It is the second lowest on Pramo, and again, that's with shit pen. And it is the next lowest on HE. Its HE pen of 50 is not terrible, actually. So one small victory. The velocity is also nothing special. Some American tanks have really good velocity. The Shark being my most recent example. This tank does not have good velocity. Aim time is okay, as we said, it was 6 out of 18, so it's not terrible. Dispersion is just average, or a little bit below average. And then, as I mentioned, the weight and the speed is the forward speed is the slowest medium in the game. And effective power to weight, you can see those are generally the slowest in the game. So you're getting one of the slowest tanks in the game. So the question is, are you getting a really well-armored tank? And the answer to that is you're absolutely not. Let's look at the front hull. Straight up, almost at 0 degree, a straight up angle, it is sloped, but you're at 150. Every medium and tier 7 can pin you in the front. I've looked at this tank across the crosshairs of a couple. It's easy to pin as hell. 126 on the lower plate is not good either. If angled and in a slope, so I mean, this tank does like hills. If you're angled, etc., yes, you can get some bounces. You can see the front plate gets to 256. The bottom plate, you got to keep covered, so you got to find a hill, the right kind of hill. But the sides are still very bad. The sides, when angled that way, to get really good, you got to get the angle perfectly, and then you're still in the 100s. So I think you better just go completely haul down. Now the problem with that is it's just not always realistic, especially with the medium. And when you do, you notice the side, there is some spots, but the turret looks pretty solid. The hatch is low, but I think this turret with that gigantic gun mantlet should get some bounces off of it.
The sides are actually slightly better than the T20, obviously, with 76 millimeters, and believe it or not, even better than the M26 Pershing. Slightly better because the rear side is still 76. So that is the armor. You're thinking to yourself, is this the same as the M26 Pershing? It's very similar to the Tier 8 M26, just slightly lower front hull. Front hull is slightly less, lower plate's a little bit less. But you can see the side of the M26 is actually worse. The rear, like kind of the second half of the M26, this is the Tier 8, has only 50 millimeters in the rear. So it's slightly better sides. It should prevent you from being HE'd by a lot of tanks, not the big TDs, but a lot of the heavies it'll be difficult to HE you in the side. Let's jump into some games and see how this tank performs. Our tester of the tank today is DarthBane, and he is actually playing with me in Oasis Palms. This was a terrible game for me, but Bane wants it. There is Bane being asked the question, do you like the Eagle? Bane's response, meh. So I think Bane, our tester, kind of says what I think a lot of people are going to find out about this tank is it's just vanilla. It's not vanilla is the most popular flavor of ice cream, by the way, but it is just vanilla. Anyway, we're at Oasis Palms. I am in a T26E3 to defend myself. I like the tank, and it has a birthday. And I was behind Bane trying to support him. T26E3 is a great tank. After that buffing, it's really a terrific tank. Bane, however, is taking the kind of frontline medium approach here, and he's facing a Drac and another T26 Eagle. Shoots the Drac, and meanwhile, you can see that he just really can't afford. He already got penned once. He can't afford to push too hard with this tank because they can pen him, although he did get a nice bounce there. 190, that looks like it was potentially Pramo from the Drac. Meanwhile, he's using the gun depression of the tank and its fast rear mobility to get some shots on there. He max rolls 281 on the Eagle 7 and continues to do all kinds of good work here using the gun depression. The angle did not land that shot, Bane, but Oasis Palm is one of those maps, and if you're looking at the mini map, you can see it's already, the majority is just a dune battle here. And this tank is designed for a dune battle. If you own it, you know that. If you're going to buy it, make sure you find a place with hills because it does have a good turret, as we discussed. It just does not have the hull to really do much of anything. What I will like about it, should I ever own it, is the reverse speed and ability to kind of get some shots out. Especially if you're relatively hull down, you can do it. But look at the enemy Eagle, and you just saw the armor there. I mean, there was just almost nothing red on the hull. And remember, this tank only has pen of 160, or I'm not sure if Bane calibrates it. So if you can pen that easily with a cannon like this, you can only imagine being in a Tier 8. You're going to be able to pen this thing everywhere. And my T25, I'm behind Bane right now, trying to get shots off. I literally looked at this tank at the Eagle on the opposite team and just saw no red whatsoever. I thought maybe it was a glitch, and it was not. Nonetheless, Bane doing some good work here. It is a 6-on-3 match already. I am up there trying to push this, doing my best to push the T49. And this was probably about as good a sequence as we had in this game. I got to smack him in the rear for 360, and he was finished off. So it's now a 6-on-1. The game is basically over. I will say that was good to see that you could at least pen the lower plate of an IS-3. That was good, but there's a Pramo. That was actually not good RNG. Did not get the shot he wanted. Let's see if Bane can pen another one here in the upper plate from in the angle. He does. That was with AP, so there is hope for this tank. Notice that the IS-3 is in a lower location, which improves the angle of the shot. So Bane, wins this one. 20-30 damage. That was an MC2. So if you want to master the tank, buy it. It's probably ripening for the mastery. You can see myself did jack squat, but I just didn't have time because we whipped the hell out of this team. And overall, nice game there. This game's a little bit bigger by Bane. We are at Port Bay, an ideal position for the tank. Bane is pushing to the C cap on the left, where every medium should go every time you play here, just about. And he is going to cross the creek or the river, as again, every medium should do when playing the tank. He takes the high road. I do not climb that hill right there. That is much easier to get spots, but also get spotted. And if you have any faster TDs that can do you damage, like a like a good TD, maybe a Borsig or something, they could really take you apart. So a little bit risky there by Bane, but he pays off. Speaking of a TD that could do some damage, is Saint Emile. Not this Saint Emile though, and Bane quickly pops him twice. And this is where you work the gun depression of the tank. Bane is already focusing on this P43, shoots him very, very nicely, and he is really trying to work the gun depression of the tank, and he is. He does get shot there by, that was the Comet, I believe, which is a little bit of a surprise because the Comet doesn't have a good cannon at all, so it may have just been luck. But I think what's going on here is this thing is rather tall, and when you have a rather tall tank and you're trying to do what Bane is trying to do, it's very difficult to know exactly how far to stick forward without exposing the tip of your side. There's a kind of a natural gift to it. Really a shank shot there, just showing the shitty dispersion of the tank. But nonetheless, Bane is making this work really, really well in his advantage, and they're weakening their opponents. It's a 7-on-6, far from over here. The Bulldog with Bane clearly doesn't know what he's doing, and he is nearly dead. This Saint Emile is still alive, which is kind of shocking. But the little alpha that this tank has does not help. Bane just fighting to clear him, and he should clear him there. Unfortunately, the T29 secures the kill ahead of Bane. So now we got a 6-on-4. Bane abandons the creek bed, and he goes up again a KB3. This is a really good comparison here because the KB3 is a tank you're going to face relatively frequently if you're in this tank, fellow tier 7. In a tank, frankly, I would love to see nothing more in a tier 7. I mean, if I'm in a KB3, I'd love to see the Eagle because you could beat the hell out of it. However, Bane's got the whole team over there shooting them, and he's doing a good job of using his gun depression. There's the front of the JGPZ. That's no problem at all as long as you don't shoot the gun manlet. So Bane is taking it out on him and trying to clear him here, and he does. And so he's already at 2 kills, 1996 damage. And now you can see how difficult it is to hit the KB3, but this tank from this distance can do it. I think if Bane was further back, he would have no hope because that strip that he has there is going to be very hard to hit. However, Bane does clear the Thunder, and he is trying to get the lower plate, does land an lower plate. I will tell you, this tank is rolling high. Maybe it's just Bane. Maybe they rigged it a little bit that it rolls a little bit higher. I mean, its alpha is much lower than that. But a good game by Bane. He played that one in a nice way. I enjoyed watching it. So Bane, terrific job there. Mastery class 1, 2763 kills. I thought that would be a mastery based on the performance of this tank, but I guess not. So should you buy the tank? Now, I'd wait. This tank will sell for 5,000 gold or less in a few months, or maybe 6 months or so. I would save it for that. Unless you really want to be the guy that owns the tank, I'd save your money, save your gold, and spend it on some other awesome tanks that are out there. But work the line, get the T34-1, something like that. Those are great tanks, much better than this one. But if you want to be one of the few that has it, go for it. Enjoy. Thanks for watching, and do subscribe to the channel.